Hi, my name is Beth Hiley here for BoardGameGeek TV at Gen Con 2015. I'm sitting down with Will Schoonover of Privateer Press, who has brought us Undercity.
Yes, this is our brand new game releasing in a couple weeks, previewing at the show, and it is our very first Iron Kingdoms board game. So the Iron Kingdoms is a setting for War Machine and Hordes and our role-playing games, and now we've brought it to the board game world. So it's an adventure board game. You're playing as heroes, and you're fighting nefarious villains, and you're playing through a persistent chaptered campaign. So there's 7 chapters in the game, and every chapter gets you XP that gives you abilities that lets you take on the next chapter better. And also it follows a little bit of a story as you dig deeper into the horrible problems that are going on under the city of Corvus, and you find bigger and bigger bad guys to fight.
Now, is it possible that can you pick an individual chapter to
you
play?
Can. There are one-shot rules for how to build a character as if you had played some previous things. So you can just take any of them and just have this many XP to build your character, or you can play it as a campaign from the start to the finish.
Well, and I think we should probably just highlight right from the get-go that what you brought is not even all of what you get, not even close.
I didn't even unfold the board all the way.
Right.
There's a bunch of stuff in the game.
So this is more of a sampling of what you'll get.
It comes with 44 miniatures, a whole bunch of cards, a whole bunch of tokens, a big, basically 33 by 22 board, lots of tiles, dice, all kinds of stuff.
All right, why don't you walk us through a few of what a turn might look like or feel like?
So,
how have you translated this world into board games?
At the beginning of every round, we draw an event card, and that event card determines random stuff. Like this one is Devil Rat Swarms. A whole bunch of Devil Rats come through the Undercity and bite anybody that's standing by themselves. And that also determines our color priority for the round, because you'll notice that the villains are different colors, and part of how they activate, since there's no GM in the game, is based on color. So then a player would take their turn. Every player has a character sheet, and that determines all of their stats and abilities, their weapons. Players also, for their character, have a feat deck, which is a deck of cards that gives them special abilities. And then as they level up, they get ability cards that add to their character sheets. So the first thing a hero does on his turn is he spawns a villain. He rolls 2 dice, 1 for the door and 1 for the type of villain. So if I rolled a 1 and a 3 right now, I would put that guy in the 3 door. And then I would take my turn, moving and taking an action. So I might move into this space and make an attack against that guy. Or if I had a gun, I would stand still and shoot somebody. You have 3 movement options: standing still, walking, or running, basically. And you have lots of action options based on the scenario you're playing and the situation. And then at the end of your turn, you draw a villain action card. And the villain action cards can activate guys based on their proximity to you, their color, or their name. So it's very unpredictable on what villain's going to do something when.
So this one happens to be activate the villain closest to me.
Yes. So if that was Pog and Doorstop's turn, it would be one of these guys, and then we would look at the color priority of that earlier card and see that it was red and say, oh, the red guy activates.
Right.
Then you play to the scenario specifics, so every chapter is different. Usually you're trying to defeat some specific bad guy or accomplish some specific goal. For example, there are missions where you have to get from one side of the map to the other. So maybe you have to squeeze through a crack and flip a button that then makes a door open. So then we flip this tile over, and now we have an open door. So there's all kinds of little things to do, and bad guys are constantly swarming onto the map to be fought, because it's a very hack and slash adventure game.
How long do you think a chapter would, I mean, I know they're going to vary a little bit depending on the scenario.
So we were aiming for an hour and a half, give or take. If you're an experienced War Machine or Hordes player, or you've played an RPG before, it does use the dice systems from that game. So everybody has stats and abilities. You roll 2 dice to attack something, you add your accuracy, you look at its defense, and then you make a damage roll with the POW versus the armor. So War Machine players will be very familiar with that.
So
and they'll pick up the game way quicker.
Yeah.
And we also designed it that way as an intro product for players that have friends who don't want to go into the full painting miniatures kind of thing, but want to still play games with them, so they can kind of use it as a gateway drug to get those players more involved in the game.
Give them a little taste.
Yeah.
Whet their appetite.
This is the simplest version of this 2-dice-6 system that the company's ever made. And it's streamlined for board game play, but it still teaches you the fundamentals of the other games. So you can, and this game does double duty as a GM kit. So if you're trying to convince your friends to play the role-playing game with you, get them to play this first, and then they know a lot of the rules, and they're already kind of used to it, and then you say, oh, and I have this book over here we could also play.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Why don't you just give a quick run-through of some of the characters, the hero characters you have over
so
there. And we'll put them right out here
Our 4
in the
hero
middle.
characters are Poggin Doorstop, who's a steam jack and a mechanic that helps him do stuff, because we're trying to also present players an intro to the Iron Kingdoms, and warjacks are a big part of that. Our second character is a gun mage, which is another thing that's very integral to the system. Gun mages have magic bullets and they can cast spells on them. Then we have a combat alchemist who has healing abilities and grenades he can throw. And then we have our Cholkin warrior, who's a big tanky character who can really dish out damage and really take damage. So each of the characters has a different role to play on the game, and there's 16 ability cards that they can use to upgrade themselves, have different paths they can take. Like this guy, Gardeck, can be even more difficult to damage or deal out even more damage. And take the middle road too and do a little bit of both of those, and you have the ability to take that different path however you want as you develop that character over the course of the campaign.
And I'm assuming too that if you're playing over multiple chapters, you could kind of rotate around characters, so you might have the chance to experience
if you want,
things.
or you can play through the entire campaign with your friends, all playing one character and building that character as you go, and then you can play the campaign a second time, playing different characters to see if you want to build a different version of that character. And of course, there is a certain amount of randomness in the way the heroes and the villains interact in each chapter, so you can replay the same chapters and different things will happen.
Well, Will, this looks like as you say, a nice entry-level way of getting into this universe, into this gaming system, and a lot packed into a pretty standard-sized box.
It's a hefty box.
It for sure is. So we can't wait to get our hands on this one. And thank you for bringing it by. That was Undercity from Privateer Press. That's a lot.